Well, Nikola is finally showing exactly what it's made up of after the company reported a fantastic Q4 earnings report earlier this week and absolutely destroyed analyst estimates. And to add cherry on top of the cake, the company gave us some amazing guidance as to how many electric trucks it expects to deliver in 2022, which give us an estimate around 300 to 500 Tre BEVs. And yes, that finally means that Nikola is going to be posting its first revenue in 2022, which beats basically every single short seller and skeptics argument that we saw throughout the media over the past couple of years. And the best part is that this Nikola earnings report was not even the best thing this company reported and announced this week, which is exactly why we're setting up for an amazing couple of quarters for this company as we head into 2022. So in this video, I'll be going over exactly what Nikola discussed in their latest earnings reports, analyze exactly what the timeline for this company could look like for the next couple of years, and then at the end, I'll give you guys my thoughts on whether or not this company has enough cash to survive 2022 and 2023. But before we get into it, guys, make sure to drop me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's start off by analyzing Nikola's latest earnings presentation to get an idea for why the next month is a very critical month for this company in terms of their execution and their production ramp up. As you guys can see, the Tre BEV program has been off to a great start in 2022 and obviously in 2021 as they launched their TTSI pilot program and gained some amazing feedback as to how smooth, quiet, and powerful their Tre BEVs really are. And for those who still say that Nikola is a fraud or a scam, I would expect that a company trying to pull off a fraud would not be sending out its trucks to real customers on real roads and giving other people an experience of their actual product. Because last I remember, Theranos never actually showed anybody how the technology actually worked and kept everything in secret and only showed off their technology in advertisements and commercials. As you guys can see, Nikola built a total of 30 pre-series Tre BEVs in the fourth quarter and had around 11 of them completely commissioned to actual customers over the past 6 months or so. And interestingly enough, Nikola said that roughly 19 of their trucks are actually awaiting part installs and are pretty much ready apart from getting their battery packs, e-axles, and or displays. And if you guys know anything about Nikola's supply chain, these parts are actually supplied from other companies and designed by Nikola in-house. So it's very clear that the supply chain issue still is lasting in 2022. And by far the most exciting catalyst they mentioned in this earnings report was the fact that the phase 1 of their Coolidge, Arizona facility is expected to be done by the end of next month, and that production for the Tre BEV on their actual production line is expected to start around March 21st. And obviously, since a lot of companies don't want to take the risk of getting pre-series trucks and conducting an entire pilot program from Nikola, when Nikola starts manufacturing these Tre BEVs on the actual production line starting next month, we should see a lot more customer deliveries for all the LOIs, contracts, and MOUs that Nikola had signed over the past 6 months. As you guys can see, apart from delivering 300 to 500 trucks and completing the successful pilot testing of the Tre FCEV, these guys' main goal is to build out a beta truck for the Tre FCEV and announce and groundbreak on a production hub in Arizona and also open up some dispensing stations for hydrogen fuel in California. And if you guys remember, in 2021, Nikola had actually set out their goal that they want to groundbreak on one of those hydrogen production hubs in Arizona by the end of the year, and obviously they were not able to fully accomplish that. And I did read through the earnings call, and what Mark Russell said is the reason for that is because there's a lot more delay in the permitting for these specific sites, and that there is much more harder research and development to be done to make sure that these hubs can actually function properly and produce hydrogen on a cost-effective basis. But obviously Nikola didn't just do nothing and stay put regarding this project. They actually went out and partnered with a company called TC Energy to make sure that they have the fuel to make hydrogen in these hydrogen hubs, which is going to be made through renewable natural gas. And since obviously the Nikola Tre FCEV is now being validated very well through a lot of beta tests, and Anheuser-Busch has already put in well over 800 units worth of orders for this truck, there's a very big incentive for Nikola to continue pursuing this hydrogen production and infrastructure project in 2022 specifically, as obviously there's going to be more demand for hydrogen fuel once these guys actually start delivering and producing these trucks on the production line in 2023. But as you guys know, Nikola's earnings was not the only thing that they had announced this week. Nikola had also gone out and announced that Michael Loskeller was named as Nikola Motor president and is now going to be reporting to Mark Russell as the CEO. This is a very big deal because I always want somebody who has automotive experience to be on the leadership team for any of the startup companies that I personally invest in. And for me, the only thing I was really concerned about is that Mark Russell nor Kim Brady really have a lot of experience working in the automotive industry, although they have lots of experience working in the financial and industrial industries. And as you guys can see, Michael Loskeller actually worked as Opel CEO in Europe, where he got the Man Best 2019 award for bringing Opel to 3 consecutive years of profitability under his reign. That's a pretty big deal because Opel's been in business for well over 4 decades, and this company has worked with a lot of different companies like GM and Stellantis. And on top of that, Michael also held the role as CEO at another startup company called VinFast very recently, but it seems like he really didn't enjoy the progress that this company specifically was making out of Vietnam and the big headwinds that they face in a very competitive EV car market. And since obviously Nikola now has a massive backlog of orders for both the fuel cell and the battery electric trucks, Michael should help this company significantly accelerate their deliveries and make sure that customers are as happy as possible when they get these electric trucks out on the roads. And as you guys can see, Nikola's Tre BEV is already in the hands of many truck centers across the country that include Thompson, Holt, and many others in Tennessee and Texas, which means that as more of these trucks are seen on the roads across the country, you're going to see more and more industrial companies and commercial businesses look into investing into Nikola's Tre BEV because obviously they're able to witness this proven technology work on the roads, and if everything goes to plan with these guys' already very successful pilot program, there should be much more demand coming for this company over the next 12 months. And since Nikola is already very deep into testing the Tre FCEV, we should definitely start seeing beta builds being completed by the end of this year, and this should definitely shed a lot of light on the advantages of hydrogen and fuel cells in the world of long haul and medium haul trucking. And so now that we've analyzed the key updates that Nikola shared in their earnings report, let's analyze the big question in the room that many people have been asking, which is whether or not Nikola will run out of money by the end of 2022 and whether or not this company might actually go bankrupt within the next 12 to 18 months. So as you guys can see, the cash burn for this company, which is essentially the starting balance minus the ending balance for their cash position every single quarter, on average is around $80 million throughout 2021. And their operating expenses on average were around $150 to $200 million, which is very reasonable for a company that's aggressively pursuing R&D and obviously scaling up their production and testing. And so if you look at the total fiscal 2021 year numbers, you guys can see that their total cash burn for 2021 was around $327 million. And they started out 2021 with roughly $849 million. So that leaves them with a starting balance of around $522 million for 2022, which means that if you take the same cash burn that they did in 2021, which I don't think is going to be very accurate, they should be left with around $200 million at the end of 2022. And the reason why I don't think the cash burn for 2022 is going to be that high for Nikola as compared to last year is because Nikola is not pursuing any big expansion in 2022, and mostly they're looking to deliver, market, and get these trucks in the hands of customers and execute on their hydrogen hub and some of their dispensing stations. This might not be as capital intensive of a year for Nikola, but again, things could definitely change. And obviously this doesn't even take into account that Nikola has that $160 million line of equity from Tunham Stone Capital, which means that these guys can raise money very easily, especially if the stock price starts going up throughout 2022, which I definitely expect to happen because tech stocks have just been in a bear market for the past year or so. And since the market is obviously cyclical, at some point in time, we are going to see a rotation back into growth and EV stocks, which should propel Nikola stock higher, well above $10 to potentially even $20. And if you guys look at the Russell 2000 IWM index, which essentially tracks all the companies underneath a $10 billion market cap, this index has basically done nothing for the past year ever since the start of 2021. And more recently, it actually entered a bear market, which goes to show that basically every single growth stock has been getting destroyed for the past year for a very important reason. And that's obviously the fact that investors have been more concerned about inflation and higher interest rates than investing in growth stocks right now. But if you don't want to take my word for it, Kim Brady in the earnings call did say that they expect to have around $225 million left by the end of 2022, and that essentially means the company has plenty of liquidity for the next 12 months and potentially going into the middle of 2023. And like I said, when the market goes back into a bull phase and we start seeing some relaxation in the destruction of growth stocks, it becomes much easier to raise money for a company not only through the public markets, but also through private investors. And it's important to note that Kim Brady said that $225 million by the end of 2022 is expected with no capital raise and a full use of the equity line of credit. And so the bottom line is that for the next 12 months, we have ample liquidity, and if everything goes to plan, this company is not going bankrupt anytime soon. But before we wrap things up, I want to go over a very critical thing, which is analyzing Nikola's valuation. As you guys can see in the fourth quarter of 2021, Nikola absolutely destroyed analyst estimates by around 28%. And this has actually been a consistent story throughout 2021. And I think people are not giving Nikola as much credit as they really should, because what this shows is that Nikola is burning much less cash than most people have been expecting. And by far the most exciting part is that since we now have that $90 million estimated revenue for 2022 based off the deliveries of 300 trucks, we can get an average estimate of what is the price to sales ratio of Nikola stock right now. And as you guys can see, if we take the shares outstanding of around $413 million and the current market cap of the company at around $3.2 billion, we come up with a forward price to sales ratio for 2022 to be around $36. And although on the surface this looks very expensive, if you actually do your research, this is a very cheap price to sales ratio for a company that's expected to grow well over 500 to 1000% over the next 3 years in terms of revenue. And as you guys can see, this is being very accurately reflected through the analyst estimates, as around 7 analysts expected Nikola to do around $131 million in revenue in 2022. And in 2023, based off the same trajectory that Nikola is on right now, that estimate goes up to $730 million, which is a whopping 453% increase year over year. And typically the rule on Wall Street is that, say if a company is growing around 40% year over year, then you don't want to pay anything more than a $40 price to sales ratio for that stock. And in this case, obviously, since Nikola is expected to ramp up revenue very aggressively, this $36 price to sales ratio is actually pretty cheap. And it's safe to say that a heavy price to sales ratio is actually pretty common on Wall Street if you have stocks that are growing at a very high rate, such as Cloudflare right here. But anyways guys, make sure to drop me a thumbs up if you found some value from this video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought of Nikola's earnings report, and give me some of your opinions on Nikola's cash burn situation. But anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.